He looked me up and down like I was some stranger off the street and said, "You can sit this one out, babe." Just like that. Then he turned to her. "Vanessa." The same woman he told me not to worry about months ago. He reached for her hand as if I wasn't even there, and they both laughed, loud, obnoxious, like some inside joke I wasn't invited to. We were at his company's annual gala, some fancy hotel ballroom with glittering lights, soft jazz, waiters offering champagne on trays. I had spent hours getting ready, hair curled, heels breaking my ankles, red dress hugging all the right places. I thought I looked good. I thought he'd think I looked good. Instead, he barely glanced at me. Vanessa showed up in a low-cut silver dress that shimmered under the light. Every man noticed her. But Ryan adored her. He hovered around her like a teenage boy trying to impress his crush. Fixed her chair, poured her wine, touched her lower back when he leaned in. I was supposed to be the girlfriend, the one who knew him best, the one who'd stayed up with him during late-night deadline, who packed his damn lunch when he said he was too stressed to eat, who kept quiet when he pulled away because work is just a lot right now. And now, I was sitting alone at a 10-person table while he made Vanessa feel like the only woman in the world. People noticed. Of course they did. One of the guys from his department, Derek, I think, gave me a quick, apologetic smile from across the table. Someone else looked away awkwardly, but no one said anything. No one ever says anything. Not when the golden boy is the one doing it. I tried not to react. I didn't storm out. Didn't make a scene. I sat there, quietly sipping flat champagne, hands folded in my lap, listening to Vanessa's giggles echo louder than the music. He never once looked back at me. That night, I didn't cry. When we got home, he went straight to the shower, said he was exhausted, and barely mumbled goodnight. I sat on the edge of our bed, stared at the floor for a while, and then pulled out my phone. Not to scroll, not to text, to plan. Because I wasn't just hurt. I was awake. He thought I would sit this one out. He had no idea I was just getting started. She's just someone from work. That was the first time I heard her name. Vanessa. He said it so casually, like she barely existed. Like I was crazy for even asking. They had been working together on a project. Long hours, late meetings, texts at weird times. I asked once, "Are you two getting close?" He laughed. "You're overthinking." At first, I believed him. I always believed him. Because he said it with that calm, tired voice, like he was too busy to even lie. And because I wanted to be the chill girlfriend, the one who wasn't insecure, the one who could trust. But then Vanessa started showing up, everywhere. She followed me on Instagram, liked every post, commented fire under one of my selfies. I thought it was weird, but maybe she was just being nice. I even followed her back. She sent me a DM. "You're so pretty. We should totally get brunch sometime, face blowing a kiss. And somehow that brunch actually happened. I sat across from her at some trendy cafe while she talked about Ryan like they were best friends. He's so funny, right? He says the weirdest stuff at work. We all die laughing. Oh my God, the other night he sent me this meme." She paused, smiled. "Oh wait, maybe you had to be there." I forced a smile and nodded. My stomach twisted, but I told myself I was being ridiculous. Ryan wouldn't do that, right? After that, she became a shadow. In group photos at work, mentioned in passing. "Vanessa said that client was a nightmare," he'd say. "Vanessa thinks the new guy won't last a week. Vanessa, Vanessa, Vanessa." Her name became a constant buzz in the background. One night, I saw a notification light up on his phone. Her name. I couldn't see the message, just her name. He turned the screen over when he noticed me looking. "You don't trust me anymore?" he asked, like I was the problem. I felt small, like I was ruining everything. So I apologized. That was the part that haunts me the most now. How many times I bent backward to avoid looking jealous. How many gut feelings I buried because I didn't want to be that girl. But now, looking back, every moment adds up. Every text, every joke, every time he dismissed my worry with that lazy little grin. She wasn't just someone from work. She was the woman he led into our world piece by piece while I stood at the door, holding it open. And now, finally, I can feel it. Not just the hurt, not just the betrayal. The rage. It doesn't burn loud. It simmers. And it's getting hotter by the day. I made myself small so he could feel big. Not all at once. Little by little, I chipped away at parts of myself, thinking it was love, thinking it was compromise, thinking that's what good girlfriends do. Like when I got offered that promotion last year, same week Ryan was passed over for the second time. I was so excited. My boss said I had leadership potential. I was finally going to lead a team. I told Ryan that night over dinner, waiting for him to be proud. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's great," he said, then added, "But are you sure you'll have time for us?" I turned it down 2 days later. Told my boss I wanted to focus on growth in my current role. What I meant was, I wanted to protect my relationship. I convinced myself Ryan would propose soon, that it would all be worth it. Or the way I stopped wearing lipstick when he said red looked a bit much. How I laughed a little softer because he said I was too loud at parties. How I started sitting through sports games I hated, listening to music I didn't like, skipping girls' nights to stay home and cook for just to be seen as low maintenance. I kept trying to be easier, quieter, smaller. And then there was Vanessa. She didn't shrink. She walked into every room like she owned it. Wore bright colors, loud perfume, heels that announced her before she even said a word. She made inappropriate jokes, talked about herself constantly, and never once apologized for taking up space. Ryan ate it up. He smiled differently around her, laughed louder, stood taller. At first, I thought maybe she had something I didn't. Something better, more exciting, more fun. I even thought about copying her, changing myself again. But I didn't. Because one night, watching the two of them from across the room, it finally clicked. It was never about me not being enough. It was about him needing to feel like more. He couldn't handle my ambition, my confidence, my calm strength. He wanted someone who made him feel like the center of the universe, even if that meant ignoring everyone else in the room. So I stopped blaming myself. I stopped wondering what I could have done differently, how I could have made him stay, what pieces of myself I should have kept cutting off to fit into his shrinking box of comfort. He wasn't intimidated by Vanessa. He was validated by her. And I finally realized, I'm not the one who was lacking. He is. There was a point where I stopped feeling like a girlfriend and started feeling like a ghost. He came home later and later. No explanation. No apology. Just walked through the door, dropped his bag, and mumbled something about being tired. Sometimes he didn't even look at me. Just went straight to the bedroom or the couch, phone glued to his hand like it was more important than anything I had to say. We used to talk. Not about big things, just random stuff. Work stories, dumb memes, little annoyances. It used to feel like we were on the same team. Now, it was like I was playing a game he'd already quit. I tried to reach him. Really tried. One night, I made his favorite dinner. Lit candles. Put on music. I thought maybe if we just slowed down, we could reconnect. But he came home late, didn't notice the setup, barely said thanks, and spent most of the meal texting under the table. I asked him gently, "Do you even want to be here anymore?" He didn't look up. Just sighed. "Why do you always have to be so dramatic?" That word hit like a slap. Dramatic. Like I was making something out of nothing. Like I was overreacting to being invisible. Like asking for basic effort made me some kind of nag. I said nothing else that night. Just cleared the plates and went into the other room. I sat on the floor by the coffee table, staring at the blank TV screen for a while. Then I pulled out my laptop. Not to watch anything. Not to cry into Pinterest boards titled, "How to Save Your Relationship." No. I opened a blank document. Not for journaling. Not for venting. For planning. Because something broke in me that night. Not the soft, fragile kind of break. The sharp kind. The clean kind. The part of me that kept hoping, kept waiting, kept forgiving. It went silent. And in that silence, I heard something stronger, myself. I was done being the ghost. Done pretending this was love. Done playing the quiet, understanding, cool girl while he slowly erased me. He thought I'd just fade away if he ignored me long enough. He had no idea what silence I was preparing for him in return. He said he was working late. Again, I nodded like I always did. Gave him a soft smile. Watched him grab his coat and leave without kissing me goodbye. He didn't notice that I didn't say good night. He never noticed anything anymore. But this time, I didn't stay home. I already knew his patterns, same excuses, same timing, same lies. He wasn't careful anymore. He didn't need to be. I had become so predictable in my silence that he thought he could do anything, and I'd still be waiting on the couch like a placeholder. So I followed him. I didn't do anything dramatic. Just slipped into my car and kept my distance. Watched his taillights from a block away. Downtown traffic made it easy to blend in. He parked near a lounge I recognized, one of those rooftop places with glass walls and dim lights and overpriced cocktails. The kind of place you take someone when you want to be seen, not hidden. I stayed in the car for a few minutes, unsure of what I'd even do. But then I saw her, Vanessa. She walked up in thigh-high boots and a jacket meant more for style than warmth. Her blonde hair caught the streetlight like a movie scene. Ryan stepped out of the car and hugged her right there on the sidewalk. No hesitation. No shame. I got out of my car and followed them on foot, slipping into the bar quietly. It was easy to blend in. People were too busy with their own dates, their own drinks. No one looked twice at me. I stayed in the back, near a wall, pretending to scroll on my phone. They sat near the windows, hands intertwined across the table. She leaned in close, laughing like everything he said was brilliant. He tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear and looked at her like she was the only person on earth. He used to look at me like that. Then he kissed her. Just leaned across the table and did it like it was nothing, like I didn't exist. My heart didn't break. It had already done that slowly over months of silence and cold shoulders. But something else happened, something harder, something colder. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Not to send, Not to post, just to remember. Because there was always a part of me, even in my most certain moments, that doubted myself. That thought maybe I was imagining it, maybe I was overreacting, maybe I was the problem. But this was truth. It was undeniable. And now I had it. No more second guessing. No more excuses. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I just stood there for another minute, watching them sip their drinks and whisper across the table like no one could see. But I saw. And that was enough. The next morning, I looked in the mirror and realized I didn't recognize the woman staring back. Not because I looked broken, but because for the first time in months, I looked awake. The fog had lifted. The silence had turned into something useful. Clear. Sharp. I wasn't going to cry in bed or binge old romantic comedy. I wasn't that girl anymore. I started with the small things. I signed up for a gym membership, not to lose weight, but to feel strong again. Power in my own arms, control in my own breath. Every time I pushed through a workout, I could feel parts of me coming back to life. Then I cut my hair, just enough to feel new. A soft, blunt bob. Sleek. Sharp. Like a statement. I walked out of the salon that day with my head a little higher, my shoulders a little straighter. I bought myself a pair of heels, expensive, red-bottomed, the kind that clicked when I walked and made people look up. I didn't even wait for an occasion. I wore them to brunch with an old friend I hadn't seen in over a year. We drank mimosas and laughed for real, for the first time in what felt like forever. I started saying yes to things again. Happy hours. Art shows. Last-minute weekend trips. I filled my life back up with people and places that didn't revolve around Ryan. And it felt good. Really good. Then, when I was ready, I started dating again. Quietly. He was the complete opposite of Ryan. Laid back but sharp, driven but not insecure. He didn't flinch when I talked about my goals. Didn't interrupt when I had opinions. Didn't treat me like an accessory. He listened. He made me laugh. He was dangerous in all the ways Ryan would hate. But I wasn't doing this to make Ryan jealous. At least not at first. Still, I wasn't above a little strategy. I knew how tight Ryan's social circle was, how gossip flowed from after-hours drinks and office lunches. So I let a few details slip. A story here. A post there. A tagged location he couldn't miss. Heard she's been out a lot lately. Did you see that guy she was with? She's looking different. The whispers started on their own. And just like that, Ryan texted me. Hey, we should talk. I stared at the message for a full minute. No apology. No explanation. Just 3 little words like nothing had happened. I didn't respond. I slipped on my red heels, grabbed my keys, and smiled in the mirror. Let him wait. I called it a birthday party, but it wasn't really just that. I booked the rooftop of an upscale downtown hotel. Glass walls, soft lighting, gold accents, and a view of the skyline that made you feel like you were floating. I told everyone it was a networking night with a personal touch, classy, intimate, exclusive. Then I sent out the invites. I sent Ryan one too. A clean black envelope, formal font, gold foil lettering. Join us for a celebration. I didn't add anything else. I didn't need to. I knew he'd come. I knew he'd bring her. People like him don't ignore a party they think they're still invited to. That night, I got ready slowly. Hair curled, soft and polished. Red silk dress that clung in all the right places. Heels that made my legs look like they went on forever. Diamond earrings, small but sharp. I wanted to look like the kind of woman who didn't chase closure. I wanted to look untouchable. My date met me downstairs. Tall, confident, a quiet kind of charm that didn't try too hard. He kissed my cheek and said, "You look like trouble." I smiled. Good. We walked in together. Heads turned. I didn't scan the room for Ryan. I didn't have to. I felt his stare before I even saw him. But when I did, there he was, in a stiff suit, drink in hand, standing beside Vanessa, who wore something tight and glittery and loud. She saw me. Her smile faded. She nudged Ryan. He followed her gaze and froze. I didn't flinch. I kept walking, every click of my heels echoing across the marble floor like a countdown. My date rested a hand gently on the small of my back as we made our way to our table. I sat down beside someone better. The conversations around me carried on. Music played softly. Glasses clinked. My new man leaned in and whispered something that made me laugh. I didn't look over at Ryan. I didn't need to. I knew they were both watching. And I let them. I let Vanessa see exactly what confidence looked, what real grace looked like, what it looked like when a woman who had been broken came back sharper than ever. Ryan didn't come over. Not yet. But I could feel it. He was unraveling, piece by piece, behind that cold expression. Because I wasn't just living well. I was glowing. And the best part, they were both invited. Vanessa's face when she saw me walk in was almost better than the skyline view. She blinked fast, like maybe if she looked again, I'd disappear. Like she couldn't believe I had the nerve to show up looking like that, with someone like him on my arm. And Ryan, he just stared. Mouth slightly open, jaw clenched, eyes locked on me like I was something unfamiliar. Not the quiet girl he used to ignore at the dinner table. Not the one he brushed aside at his company gala. No, this was someone else entirely. I greeted them as if we were strangers at a charity auction. Polite smile. Tilted head. No warmth. Ryan. Vanessa. So glad you could make it. Vanessa gave me a tight smile. You look different. I kept my voice calm. Yes. I do. Then I turned and introduced them to the man beside me. Confident. Well-dressed. Successful in the kind of way Ryan always pretended to be. This is Nathan, I said. He's in finance. And real estate. And somehow still makes time for art galleries and actual conversation. Nathan shook Ryan's hand with a calm grip and a slight smirk, like he already understood the game and was 3 moves ahead. He charmed the room instantly, offered to get drinks for the group, asked real questions, remembered people's names. Everyone noticed. Even Vanessa. Especially Vanessa. She laughed a little too hard at one of Nathan's jokes, rested her hand on Ryan's arm, almost like a warning. I saw it all. And then Ryan finally broke. He walked up to me during a lull, glass in hand, fake casual. Can we talk? He asked, voice low. I didn't lower mine. Now's not a good time, I said, with just enough volume for nearby ears to hear. He blinked. It'll only take a second. I smiled coolly. That's funny. That's exactly how long you made me feel like I mattered. A few heads turned. One woman actually raised her eyebrows and whispered something to her friend. Ryan's face reddened. Vanessa looked like she wanted to disappear into her champagne. I turned back to Nathan, looping my arm through his. Ready to check out the terrace? I asked. Lead the way, he said, like he'd been waiting for it. As we walked away, I didn't look back. I didn't have to. I knew what they saw. Not just someone prettier. Not just someone upgraded. They saw a woman who had once been stepped on, now walking tall in heels they couldn't afford. And the best part? There was no scene. No drama. No tears. Just a shift in the room so strong, even the chandeliers could feel it. He followed me out the moment I stepped off the elevator. Wait, he called. Please. I didn't stop walking. The cool night air wrapped around me as I stepped onto the sidewalk. My driver was already pulling up, headlights cutting through the dark like a movie cue. Just give me a second, Ryan said, catching up. He looked flustered, tie loosened, hair out of place, a panic in his eyes I hadn't seen before. I didn't know you'd be here with someone. I turned slowly, calm and steady. It was my event. He blinked like he forgot. Or maybe never noticed in the first place. He glanced back at the building, then down at his hands. Vanessa, she doesn't mean anything. Not really. I stayed silent. He stepped closer, voice lower. I messed up, okay? But we had something real, didn't we? I could have said a lot of things. I could have asked why he didn't realize that when I sat alone while he flirted with her. Why it took me being happy with someone else for him to see me again. I could have screamed, cried, demanded answers. Instead, I looked him in the eye and said nothing. The silence stretched between us. Thick, heavy, uncomfortable. He shifted, searching my face for something, anything. Regret, sadness, a crack in the armor. He found nothing. The car door opened behind me. Nathan stepped out, jacket draped over his arm, looking cool and unbothered. Everything okay? He asked, looking between us. I smiled. Perfect. Ryan flinched. I turned my back to him and got into the car. Nathan followed, and the door shut behind us with a soft thud that felt louder than any goodbye I could have given. As we pulled away, I didn't look back, but Nathan did. He glanced over his shoulder, smirked slightly, then leaned in close. You win, he whispered. I let out a breath, and then laughed. The kind of laugh that bubbles up from deep inside, the kind that comes when the weight finally lifts off your chest. I laughed all the way down the street. Through the rear window, Vanessa stood near the entrance, arms crossed, watching Ryan. Ryan stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring after the car like a man who'd just realized he'd locked himself out of his own house, only to find someone else had moved in and changed the lock. And me? I didn't say a word, but I won. I never got the closure I used to think I needed. No long talk. No apology that made everything make sense. No real explanation for why he did what he did. And honestly, I don't care anymore. I moved out a week after the party. Quietly. No dramatic scene, no screaming match. Just boxes, movers, and a signed lease for a place that felt like mine. I left the keys on the counter and didn't leave a note. What was there left to say? 2 months later, I got promoted. The same job I almost gave up to keep him comfortable? I crushed it. My new manager said I had presence, like I owned every room I walked into. I smiled when she said that. If only she knew. I stopped checking his socials. Stopped asking mutual friends about him. Stopped caring if he and Vanessa were still together or not. But I heard through the grapevine that she started getting distant. Guess it's different when you're no longer the shiny new thing. I started living again. Not to prove anything. Not to show him what he lost. Just for me. long walks in the morning, brunches with friends, solo coffee dates where I brought a book and didn't look at my phone. I even started painting again, badly, messily, happily. Some nights I'd think about everything that happened, not in a bitter way, just quietly, like rereading an old chapter in a book you've already moved past. It doesn't hurt anymore, because I finally understood something. It was never about revenge. It was about remembering who I was before I started shrinking to fit his world. I used to think closure came from answers, from hearing them say, "I'm sorry," or "I see what I did wrong." But now I know it's not about that. Closure is walking away without needing anything from them. Closure is smiling again without permission. Closure is knowing that I didn't lose him, he lost me. And yeah, walking into that room with someone better was a nice little bonus. But the real win was walking away head high while they both watched.